Hey everybody. I'm doing this late because I had research papers, some rough drafts, a ton like to look over the weekend, and teaching is my job and it's my bread and butter. So this is late, even if y'all don't watch it. But I just got done watching Love and Marriage Huntsville, season 6, episode 6, Lay T Like. Okay? So we get Mel going to Tiffany's house to check on her after getting into it with Kiki, even though she started it. But I guess they want to check on her because she's pregnant. So Mel was clear. She was like, when I heard all the F bombs and B bombs, um, she was like, I have worked too hard to let this affect me. And I said, you damn Skippy Mel. This show is your continuous commercial for your products. And the higher you go, the more people expect from you. And the more you come into contact with other serious business people, you can't be associated with this shit in the same way. This ain't first season no more. All right? Which is why she kept saying to Martell, when she knew them cameras and shit were around, oh, don't do that. Oh, don't do that. First of all, we know when black women take that tone, we already know what the fuck is happening, okay? We know she wasn't calm necessarily, but she knew the recording would still sound like that. Everybody don't understand those inflections, okay? Especially probably not a judge. Anyway, so Mel is trying to keep her kids, okay? Or at the least certainly not have them taken away. So she has a lot to lose, and I feel like that has a lot to do with why she's not engaging with them, and also because she's growing up. She's maturing, should I say. So she invites Tiffany to the tea party and that she's planning to have to help them communicate more effectively. Okay? And clearly, more effectively and clearly without shouting and fighting. Will this work? Hell no. Okay, but we got to have a show. Okay. So Tiffany continues with her bullshit, even though she is about to pop, okay, with child. And then had the nerve to say she was disappointed in herself that she let Kiki pull her down to her level. Bitch, when we watching the same goddamn show, bitch, you started with her. The level of delusion on these reality shows blows my fucking mind. Do people really sit in front of the camera with these setup ass scenes and then have the aftermath scene and think we can't see through that shit? Like we just forget? Like they really think we stupid. All right, so she tells Tiffany, Mel's talking to Tiffany about Martell coming to their daughter's birthday party uninvited. And Tiffany, has this look on her face like, oh shit. She said she let Mariah call him on her birthday, their oldest daughter, before the party. He had already known about it anyway, whether she would have called him that day or not, because bitch ass Marceau took his gossiping ass back and told it. But he took Mel's kindness in letting her call her father on that day before the party. Okay. And I say Mel's kindness because she could have waited just until after. So this ninja didn't pull nothing. But he took it for weakness, right? And he took that as an opportunity to curse Mel out or whatever about not being invited, so on and so forth. Like after you show your ass like that on the phone and then show your ass at the party, why would you want that lingering tension in the air? For your kid. Okay? That's how I know this isn't about the kids, Martell. If that is what it really is about, then you wouldn't do that. Get the fuck out of here. So Mel called even after the party and she recorded it. And she said the reason why she recorded it is because Martell is really manipulative. And I guess she said, fuck it. Y'all ain't gonna let him control the narrative on this show, and I don't blame you. Do what you gotta do, boo. So Mel called even after the party and said, you can come and get her today. Their oldest daughter. She recorded his ass. Then he said, no, I'm not gonna get her. I'm just gonna wait until Monday. Now, there's two things going on. He could have said to himself, maybe it's going to be too much to interact again with Mel that day. Or it could be what I think is the obvious. And it's that he uses the kids as a way to get at and control Mel. And so if Mel is not around, he doesn't want to get them because then he can't get to her. Which means he's not going to spend a significant amount of time with his daughter, because if Mel's just going to let him have her, he can't manipulate her and try to hurt her the same way. Because my thing is, even if it got out of hand that day and you wanted to take it down a notch, Martell, you should have taken that opportunity at the very least to apologize to your daughter for upsetting her at her party. Because don't tell me those kids weren't upset. And them other 3 kids, maybe not the baby because she may not have interpreted it, but I mean apologizing to them for his behavior. When Mel said, I wish I would have had my children by a man, not a queen, a man, I said, go off, Mel, go off. And that shit took me out. And before everybody starts tripping, she is not saying that she regrets her kids and all that shit. She's sorry that she and them are now caught up with this fool, okay? Because of the way he's acting. And honestly, if a man said what Mel said, people would be rushing to the internet to defend him as a black man. He has to deal with all this shit. Da, 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 da. I can hear it now. So don't do that bullshit in my comments, by the way. Don't. All right? I don't care. I said what I said. So she's letting everybody bring a +1 to this, tea party. Tiffany was like, a +1 means backup, which means people need some backup. And I said, yeah, well, you got Tiffany. You're not right about much, but you was right about that. So then we get Kimmy, Maurice, and Monster. Maurice is blaming Kimmy for not enforcing the rules with his teenage son. Monster is not Kimmy's son. And we can say bonus parent, all that shit. He's not her son. He has 2 parents, both of whom are still alive and able-bodied and in his life. Period. You wanted Maurice, your son, to come and live with y'all. Okay? Now, Kimmy was like, you don't back me up in enforcing the rules. And she was like, there is a limit when you're a bonus parent to what you can do with somebody else's kid. And that's true. That's true. That's fucking true. It's fucking true. All right, Maurice, this is your son at the end of the goddamn day. The difference with you and Kimmy is that Kimmy respects boundaries. And let me just put my little piece in here right now. As a teacher, I can tell you that this bullshit gentle parenting, where if the kid does something, you want to blame everybody, including the bonus parent, step parent, whatever you want to call it, the teacher, the school, anybody but the kid, and just sorry ass parenting, okay? How kids behave at school is a reflection of what kind of values and boundaries they have at home with other adults. I don't mean a kid that shows out once in a while. I'm not saying that kids don't have moments. That's not what I'm saying. But perpetual behavior, that's a reflection of what's happening at home. Period. Hard stop. Okay? And quite frankly, I know people have said that this generation after generation that there's always, differences with these kids, but this shit is going to blow. This gentle parenting bullshit, like your kid believing that nothing they do is wrong. It's everybody else in the way they're interpreting their behavior. And if you have millions of kids believing that about themselves, and adults, and growing into adults that believe that about themselves, and people don't want to deal with this shit because nobody wants to call them out, or when you do call them out, you get in trouble. That's why you have so many teachers walking off the fucking job. How do you expect these kids to take responsibility? How do you expect them to have any level of resilience? They can't. You haven't taught them that. And the people who tried to teach them, you stopped them. And Maurice, you're an example of that. And Kiowa agrees with Kimmy about enforcing the rules. And Kiowa and Kimmy, we know. Okay, I don't even feel like going into the next. I don't even like Kiowa. Anyway, so Kiki and Stormy meet up. And I'm just like why? Like, why? Okay, they need some experimental scenes to see how their chemistry is on camera so they can see how often they can put them together. Okay. All right, so they go and see a spiritual healer named Tanjanika or something like that. She sits down and introduces herself and says, first and foremost, she is a child of God. I wouldn't introduce myself that way, but okay. She said her calling came from church. See, and that's when my brain said alert. I was like, your calling should come from God, baby. Not church. Church is a group of people that get together to worship God. You got to know who the head of your life is. Miss me with the stuff. All right. So Kiki asked how the spiritual healer, how chakras and crystals connect to being a child of God. Because she was like, well, basically, people consider that blasphemy, so on and so forth. And I know people do. And she was like, those are people who don't read their Bible. And I was like, I read mine. I have yet to see crystals and chakras as acceptable. Okay. But all right. Anyway, so she takes the crystals and starts talking to Stormy, and Stormy starts crying and saying she's bringing a new energy. And I was like, this is a bunch of bullshit. Next. So I can't even spend no more time on that. So then we get Martell and Maurice meeting up. And believe it or not, in this scene, I do actually think Martell dropped some jewels. Probably unintentionally, but he did. So Maurice decided to shoot a scene in a house in the process of being remodeled into their work building to make us believe he's actually doing some work. Okay? So Mo was lying, telling Martell that he looks good and all this other shit. So Maurice Mo, all right, it's always M names, you drive me crazy. Said he's going to stay on top of him like he's a big brother, so he's asking him questions and stuff. So Maurice asked him, "How's it going?" He says, "Well, it's good with the kids, but not with him and Mel." Pause. Let me tell you something right now, Martell. Okay? It's not good with the kids if it's not good between you and Mel. And when I say that, y'all aren't doing a good job of pretending like there's no tension. When you show up somewhere you were not invited and start yelling at their mother and their grandmother, I can tell you right now, it's not good for them. And you're setting a poor example of how men should treat women in front of your daughters and what's acceptable behavior for your son that is going to go into his latent learning. And if y'all don't check that shit, will end up becoming a later problem with him and women. Whatever. All right. So even though Maurice shouldn't be giving advice neither, he is still better than Martell to some degree. But some of the stuff Martell was saying to him, people can always get better advice than they can take. So Mo is talking to Martell about Monster, about how he's not doing what he's supposed to do. Martell says, well, he was like, and sometimes I look at him and I'm jealous. I'm like, if I had your life, how much further would I be? And Martell goes, you'd probably be worse. He was like, what do you mean? He was like, sometimes spoiling kids is what makes them worse. And I was like, I do think there's something to being a working class person like I grew up as and was and going through school and knowing that loans, grants, scholarships, like you had to have that to keep on going through. It's very different from somebody who knows mommy and daddy is just going to get them out no matter what, or who just don't give a shit and just in school to get a degree as an accessory. I do think he has a point. He was like, but my mom stands by people are still going to be who they are no matter how you try. And I had to stop on that one. Are there things that I think you can do in rearing and training a child? Absolutely. But I do think there's a point. Received. All right. So he said he doesn't want, and this is Maurice talking, his society to take over his son because his son is not disciplined. I get that. And so he asked, Martell was like, yeah, I was bad as hell at that age. And he asked, what did he do? He was like, sports. He was like, ROTC. And I was like, sometimes you have to do what you have to do, particularly if his mother was a single mother primarily. But I think kids also need to have a healthy fear of their parents. And when I say that something is wrong, if Maurice, you're claiming you're doing all this stuff and your son doesn't feel the need to listen, there's something wrong. That he's not scared of you enough to get his shit to fucking together. That means somebody's dropping the ball one way or another, and it's you. Because Kaya was sent him down there. And you claimed you could do a better job with him growing into a man. And you fucking up. Next, then we get to the tea party with the etiquette coach. First of all, you couldn't have invited me as no grown woman to no etiquette party. I don't need your help. All right. So Mel was basically like, we're all black business owners. So you can take somebody out the ghetto, but you cannot take the ghetto out of them. And it is obvious by their behavior. Okay. So Mel was straight serving in her turquoise. That's my birthstone. Mel's hat worked. I'm not sure when the new church hat became a British tea hat, a headband, and a bow. But it doesn't seem to work for most people. Okay. So I want people to stop. It's working for Mel and it seems to work for Portia Williams. Outside of that, I just think it looks very colonized African person trying to give British tea, and it's just not. Stick with the old school stuff. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So Stormy comes in and brings her mother. Her mother looks evil and is ghetto. I said what I said. They were giving them a bunch of bullshit directions they will never need because these people will never be invited to a serious tea party. Okay, about how to drink and all this shit. A serious tea party. By that, I mean one in Britain. One with Beyonce, okay? Who has invited you, which will never fucking happen. All right, next. So Mel explains the spa situation and why the etiquette class was necessary because of the way they were talking. Stormy jumps in and brings up that she curses a lot talking to the etiquette coach and says that in front of her mother. I thought saying you curse a lot in front of your mother was disrespectful. While they seem to be on this tip of what's respectful and what somebody should or should not do. That's just me. I'm not saying I don't curse. I'm just saying carrying on like that in front of your mother, I think is disrespectful. clearly, but we weren't raised the same way. Hooray, hooray. Okay, so anyway, both of them. All right. So, the woman says when you curse a lot, it's because you lack the words to express yourself. And Stormy was like, no, I just enjoy saying curse words. And then proceeded to give examples in front of her mother. I mean, that's the way you may talk around your friends. I just don't think that's the way you talk around your mother or older women. I don't. So Nell Fletcher cuts off her place on this show is just, to me, is just a stretch. I don't, but whatever. Cuts off the etiquette coach and says, well, let's get to the meat of it. And basically, Mel was throwing shade by giving Stormy no eye contact, not making any faces, and that was everything. Okay? Because Mel can easily go to the... I didn't do anything. I was just sitting here. Anyway, so somebody says so somebody jumps in and says, well, Mel and Stormy. And then somebody else says, well, Mel and Stormy's mother. Is that the issue? Is that the meat you're talking about? I don't know who it was. So Betty brings up social media. Okay, this is why old people do not need to be on social media. And Betty says, since somebody else is talking that has nothing to do with the situation, I'm going to talk. And Nell said, say that again. And I said, ooh, child, when a sister asks you to say that again, she really don't mean for you to say that again. That's your ass. So Stormy asked Nell not to speak because she hasn't been privy to those conversations. Now, the etiquette coach says Nell let you speak, Stormy, and when you were talking to her, but you cut Nell off when she was talking to you, and that's rude. Stormy was like, I know, but I didn't want to forget. And I was that gave me a little chuckle. Anyway, so Mel says she was asked about Stormy on the Love and Marriage Huntsville reunion. And Mel said, she was talking about herself, said that Stormy clearly represents what Love and Marriage Huntsville is about. And she said, that's not something I would say about a person I didn't like. Well, if you put it in the right tone, you may. But nevertheless, okay. So she asked Betty to please explain the issue. Because Mel's like, I'm not sure why we have an issue. And why would you have an issue with somebody's mother? This ain't Mel and Martell. Like, now when y'all have issues with them, that's on a different level. This right here, cut it out. So Mel basically tweeted that there was a secret recording of her, and it was when Destiny played a conversation she had with Mel. I remember that, where she was like, she has no feelings for Martell, so on and so forth, doesn't care. And the mother is like, well, people thought it was Stormy, and you could have jumped in anytime and said it wasn't Stormy. I was like, bitch, that is not how social media works. People can get carried away in the comments. That is not Mel's job. Okay, fuck you. So Mel was like, people say a lot about me all day, every day. I was thinking to myself, yeah, you got to cover your ass and them 4 kids you have. Okay, anyway, she was basically saying, I can't respond to this shit all for myself, let alone for somebody else. But Mel does say, I can apologize, however, if my tweet offended you. And I guess, whatever. So this old ass ghetto Chinese slipper wearing old heifer says, I'm going to shut you down with that. Shut up. And I was like, Now see, when you do something like that, you better bring out receipts. And Betty didn't do that. Betty was like, my direct issue with you is how you do things. That's not direct. I'm going to need you to tell me what she did. What the thing is. That's already vague. And not coming back to shutting it down. Then she said she feels a certain way when anybody tries to diminish her daughter's accomplishments. Okay, bitch, I'm going to need you to get your statement together because right now you're rambling. Okay? Bitch, if that's the case, then you mad at the viewers who was talking shit about her. You mad at them. Us. Okay? And let me tell you something. I don't give a fuck. So, and then you follow it up with, I don't care what people say about me. People talk about me all the time, too. I said, people ain't checking for you. Boo, don't play. And if you don't care, then give that advice to your daughter and tell that bitch to move on. Instead of worrying about what the fuck Mel got to say. I mean, if you really real like that. Okay? Anyway, so Storm, I'm going to tell you right now, this show is going to be a downfall of your business. It is not a good look. Honestly, you couldn't sell me a carnival goldfish. Anyway, so Mel apologized if it offended her. She was over it. She handled it the best she could with a ghetto person who is not trying to hear it, who just wants confrontation. Then Kiki jumps in and says, well, I have an issue. So she confronts Tiffany. Kiki said, my issue is with Tiffany's lies. Tiffany told Tisha When they met at their house, she likes everybody. She likes to protect her energy. But if Kiki is willing to throw Tisha under the bus, she'll do the same to me. We remember that. Got it? All right. She told, basically at the table, Tiffany went back to the table, tells Kiki, she was like, I don't know you, I don't text you, that kind of thing. I know of you and of your family, but I don't know you. And didn't want to be around you based on what I saw. Okay? Whatever. So Kiki says, well, let me educate you on what knowing of someone and of someone's family is. Tiffany said, I don't need to be educated. Kiki said, clearly you do. When black women start talking like that, shit is about to go down. It's not going to get any better. So Kiki said they've known each other for years. Their sons play on the same sports team. And I was thinking to myself, well, Huntsville is big. Shit. I don't think she's lying about that. Tiffany sat there with that bitchy smirk on her face, and that's how I knew she was lying. Because she's a bitch. All right. Tiffany basically was saying Kiki had been introduced to the group, which really is code for she's been introduced to the cast of Love and Marriage Huntsville as Mel's friend. Okay, that's really what she was saying. So Tiffany, shut the fuck up though. If you were responsible, you would not enter these kind of spaces and be ready to engage with this shit as a pregnant woman. If you were a responsible adult woman, that tells me you have not matured at all since your first child. That is no way to carry on. And you start shit. I'm not even taking Kiki's side, but you full of shit too. All right. So basically, Tiffany was basically saying Kiki had been, whatever. And then Kiki says, well, I went on a crusade to help you find your father, along with Mel. And Kimmy stops her and says, well, after you tried to help Tiffany find her father, did you at least follow up with her, so on and so forth? Then Kiki says, yes, I did. And I've always known who my father is. That was me. It was out of pocket. And you did say that to hurt her. You did. The other part of this is Tiffany also throws low blows. So Kiki tried to hurt you back. That's mean. And there's a lot of people like that who don't know their father, and it's not their fault. But Tiffany, you also go so hard on people. That's how I feel about it. All right. So Kiki was called out by the etiquette coach about the low blow. And Kiki said, well, that wasn't a dig. Kimmy goes, that was absolutely Thank you, voice of reason. All right. And Kiki said, I apologize. And that was not what I meant. And Mel pulled a Mel and jumped in and said, I'm so glad we figured this out. And this has been great. So she can kick them bitches out, get them the fuck out before they start throwing tea and crumpets and Lord knows Bojangles biscuits if they can at each other. She said, I ain't finna do this on my time or my dime. And I'm here for it. Anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. Y'all have a good week. Bye.